be that a veteran is like 1 minute they're on the battlefield, they're in active combat, fast forward within a couple of days they're back to civilian life? Does that happen?
Oh, sure, yeah. Sometimes they are even back to civilian life before they are officially discharged. They can get early discharges, get out a month or two early and resume their duties in the civilian world. Sometimes when they're officially discharged, they're back on the civilian streets within a week or sometimes less than that.
And there is some kind of transition that takes place, right? That whatever military service they're in will do some sort of transition to help them make that jump.
Yes, that's right. All of the military branches have something called a TAP, which stands for Transitional Assistance Program, and these are orientations that are done by officers, which give the men and women that are leaving the service information that they need about how to find jobs and how to take advantage of educational opportunities, VA benefits, and that sort of thing. So I think the military tries to do as good a job as they possibly can, helping these veterans to make the transition back into civilian life. But still, it's a very difficult change for them to make.
And we
see now, and we see veterans having a real hard time trying to make that adjustment to a college campus when they come out of the service, because
to navigate that. Yeah, we should point out that Rick Wright is the director of WKU's Upward Bound program, and so you deal exclusively with veterans who are making that transition and using the VA bill to go to school, to get an education. But when we were talking about the transition program a little bit ago, you said something about sometimes the information is not always accurate. Sometimes the information that they get is incomplete.
Right.
So how do you mean that? What does that mean?
Well, I only know what veterans have told me, and there have been a number of times when I've been talking with veterans about their VA educational benefits, and I'll tell them that under their particular plan they might get some kind of a benefit, and they'll say, well, gee, when I went through my transitional assistance program, they told me I couldn't get that, or they'll say I needed a different type of discharge to get that particular benefit, or I needed to have more active duty time to get it, or I'll tell them they're not qualified for a certain VA educational benefit plan, and they'll say, well, gee, my recruiter told me I was, or the person that was doing my transitional assistance program told me that I was, and then I'll have to explain to them that the people who made these presentations are not experts in every single field. I mean, they don't know everything about housing and about jobs and about health care and all the other services you want to access when you come out of the military and go into civilian life. And they also don't know everything there is to know about VA educational benefit plans. I work with VA benefits every single day, so I kind of regard myself as an expert in that area, but I've been doing it for a long time. So I don't expect these people that are doing the transitional services in the military to know as much as I do about VA educational benefits specifically.
But it used to be VA. Wow, that was the way to get your education. Is it still, are the benefits still what they were at one point?
Oh yes, I think so. I mean, if anything, they've gotten better. The post 9/11 GI Bill has been a tremendous boon to veterans, way better than the previous GI Bill, which was called the Montgomery GI Bill. I mean, all that did was give them a monthly stipend every single month, no money for tuition, no money for books. Post 9/11 GI Bill and the Montgomery GI Bill was limited to 10 years, so they had 10 years to use their eligibility. When the post 9/11 GI Bill came into effect in 2009, it not only gave them a monthly stipend to help with their living expenses, but it pays a portion of their tuition and mandatory fees, can be anywhere from 40 to 100%, depending on how much active duty time they have, and it gives them a book stipend, which can be as much as $1,000 a year. And
depending on their service time, so that's how it's based?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And depending when they had accumulated their active duty time.
Is it equal across branches?
Oh yes.
Regardless of what branch of the service you served under, as long as you had X amount?
It's the same GI Bill, regardless of what branch of the service you were in, yes, across all
You've
branches.
been doing this a long time, like you said, so you're dealing with someone who may have, like we talked about early on, have just come out of active combat. They decide that they're going to go this route, they're going to get an education. We have a lot of broken people who make that step. So not only are you dealing with in what's often a non-traditional student, you're also dealing with someone who might be carrying some PTSD, traumatic brain injury. So how does that all fit into the scheme?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because there are a lot of disabled veterans out there. And that's one of the things that makes it particularly difficult for veterans to to adapt to college life, we deal with mostly non-traditional students, like you said. In my program, the average age is 36.
Which is upward bound. Okay.
Veterans upward bound at 36. And many of them have a variety of disabilities. But when you're age 30, when you reach the age of 36, you usually are encumbered with a lot of awesome adult responsibilities. At that age, you usually
And
have
I
a
don't
spouse.
think you mean awesome in the good awesome
No,
sense.
no. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of really weighty issues that you're dealing
Yes.
with in your life. I mean, most of our veterans have spouses. They have children. They have full-time jobs. They have bills to pay. A lot of bills to pay. But they have a lot more financial obligations than the traditional student, the 18 to 20-year-old kid that's fresh out of high school that is probably still living with his parents or her parents, and are probably still being supported by their parents. Well, these older non-traditional veterans have all of those expenses that I just mentioned. They have mortgages to pay, they have car payments to make, they have insurance bills to take care of.
So you get that plus the emotional weight of maybe having served and
Yes.
maybe been in combat and then.
Well, they have all of that stress in their life to deal with, and at the same time, they may have a very serious disability. I mean, there are many students on this campus, Western Kentucky University, that are disabled student veterans. Some of them have very serious physical disabilities. They might be blind. These are all service-connected injuries. They might be blind. They might be deaf. They might be missing a limb. They might have to get around in a wheelchair. But beyond that is what you just alluded to, PTSD. I mean, many of them have very serious disabilities that are not visible to the average person.
To the naked
PTSD
eye, yeah.
is one, depression, suicidal tendencies, anxiety, traumatic brain injury. And so, imagine trying to take care of all of these responsibilities that you have, trying to take care of a family, trying to do a full-time job, and then dealing 24 hours a day, every single day, with a very serious physical disability or psychological disability. That makes it extremely difficult to motivate yourself to go to class.
Okay, so you bring up the issue, but how do you make that jump? How do you, through Veterans Upward Bound, help these individuals make that transition?
Well, we offer a variety of services through our program. We do a lot of academic services like scholarships and tutoring, and then we provide all kinds of support services. With another thing that students are really concerned about, in addition to money, because of all these responsibilities they have to their family, and perhaps medical expenses as well, is academic failure. They're scared to death of flunking out of college.
Yeah.
No, but this kind of gets into what you were just asking about.
Wow.
They're scared to death
Of failing,
and
yeah.
flunking
Because
out
that's
of
not an
college.
option when you're in the active service.
Well, they don't want to disgrace their families and themselves by
Sure.
failing out of college. So we, to help them in that particular situation, if they're afraid of going to college, many of them, you would never think that these big, tough, courageous veterans who have been on the battlefields in Iraq and Afghanistan would be afraid of a little old thing like going to college. But many of them are scared to death because they're not only low-income persons in our program, but they're first-generation college students. So they haven't had any mentors when it comes to going to college. They've had no family members teach them how to get into college and how to succeed in college. So one of the services that we offer, if they're really nervous about their academics, is tutoring. We do what we call veteran-to-veteran tutoring. We have veterans on our staff that work one-on-one with students that are aspiring to get into college. And we do tutoring in things like English, math, reading, writing, computer literacy, all kinds of things along those lines.
With the justification being that a veteran might be more willing to be tutored by a fellow or veteran, someone who's been in their shoes.
That's right. They relate better to a fellow veteran. They trust that person more.
Sure.
They have a lot in common with them. They kind of speak the same language. They've been through a lot of similar experiences. And then beyond that, I mean, we do all kinds of other things to make their transition to college life easy. For instance, we help them identify what school they might want to go to. It might be WKU, might be some other schools in Kentucky or outside of Kentucky.
So they're not limited. If they come to you, they don't have to go to school here. You're just there to help them make that transition.
That's right. We help them identify majors they might want to pursue, degrees they might want to go after. Sometimes they don't even know the difference between an associate degree and a bachelor's degree, because they're first-generation college students. We help them fill out the application for admission. We can get any documents they need for the admissions office, which covers everything from from military transcripts to high school transcripts, GED transcripts. If they have been to another college, we can get those transcripts from them. So we provide all of those services. If they're a disabled student, we make sure they get connected with a disabled student services office on campus. If they have serious mental health issues and they need counseling of some kind, we make sure they get linked up with the counseling office on campus.
So you really sound like the catch-all, that you really cover all the bases to help veterans make that transition. You know, Rick, I got to ask you this. You know, you said it, I didn't. You've been doing this a while. And can you share like an anecdotal story? Can you just share a moment, and I'm sure you've had many, where you worked with somebody who made that transition, who got there, and there you see them walking the line at graduation, and they did it?
Oh, sure. I've been to several graduation ceremonies in this job. I've been in this business over 32 years, business of higher education administration. Started my career here at Western way back in the early 1980s when I was working right over here in Potter Hall in student affairs. And then after 2 years, I left that job, went away for 29 years, worked at a couple of other colleges in a couple of other states, came back here 7.5 years ago. But I've been working specifically with veterans for almost 14 years now, veteran services. And I really enjoy going to the graduation ceremonies of students that I've helped get into Western, and I've been to a number of them over the last couple of years. And that's a big payoff for me. I mean, it's wonderful for me to know that I was with that step every step of the way. I mean, I met them when they first walked into my office and were scared to death about the idea of going to college, and then a couple of years later, for me to be able to go to their graduation ceremony, see them walk across the red carpet and get that degree is very, very satisfying and fulfilling for me. One of our most recent graduates started with me back in 2011. He was one of the first students that I helped when I first came back to Western 7.5 years ago. Initially, we got him into Hopkinsville Community College with his associate's degree. He wanted to become he had a long-term goal, Barbara, and he really stuck to that goal. He wanted to be a counselor working for the Veterans Affairs Administration, helping fellow veterans. So I said, okay, well, here's how we'll begin. We'll help you go to Hopkinsville Community College and get an associate's degree in human services. He did that, in 2 years. Then he came to Western. We helped him get into Western to pursue his bachelor's degree in social work. He did that in 2 more years. And then he immediately applied for graduate school, and he graduated a year ago with his master's degree in social work. And just recently, a couple of months ago, he was hired as the full-time certified social worker for the VA community-based outpatient clinic here in Bowling Green.
Oh,
so
yes.
he achieved that goal.
Mission accomplished is what we would call that.
He's doing really well. He loves the job. He set a goal for himself over 7 years ago, stuck to that goal, and he finally achieved it. And because of that, he now has created a much better quality of life for himself and his family. He has a wife and 2 young children.
2 young children.
Yeah.
The stick-to-itiveness of having served in the military, there's a certain mindset that helps them succeed, I think, but can also be the deterrent that causes failure. So, if you would, Rick, if you're a veteran and you're watching this and maybe you've always thought about going back to school, what advice would you have for someone?
Call me.
Call you.
Yeah, we run a one-stop shopping service in the Veterans Upward Bound program right here at WKU. It's as simple as that. Just pick up the phone, give me a call, and we'll take it from there. I'll ask you a couple of questions to make sure that you're qualified for our services, and most veterans are. And then I'll make an appointment for you to come see me right here on the main campus of WKU in Bowling Green. We'll get you admitted to the Veterans Upward Bound program, and then we'll provide you all the services that you need to go to the college of your choice. And the best thing of all, Barbara, it's all free.
It's all free.
All the services that we provide through Veterans Upward Bound are totally free. All the books, equipment, supplies, materials, all the support services, all the academic services are completely free of charge.
Most important, the support services. Rick, thanks for what you do. We've been talking with Rick Wright. He is the Executive Director of Upward Bound at WKU. And now remember, you can continue the conversation in the comments section. You can also follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook at Coffee Near Me TV. Rick, thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.